Hello viewer, welcome to the meeting point. I'm your host, AIWERIOGHENE OKUNGBOWA. The meeting point is a live phone-in program that discusses issues around the themes of politics, economy, environment, security, etc. It offers a platform for the cross-pollination of ideas among segments of the public. The program also sets the agenda for the public. Today's topic, the role of delegates in primary elections. Events of the last few months in the political landscape of the nation has been intriguing, as many political parties are ready with conducting primaries for state, Guba, senatorial, House of Rep and state assemblies as required by INEC in the electoral laws. The word delegate is the most mentioned word in recent times, as they are expected to express their choice of who flies the party's flag, thereby becoming the most sought after brides to be wooed by intending aspirants. And to discuss this very important issue today, I have two very accomplished journalists. To my immediate left is Mr. Gray Almuna. Mr. Gray Almuna is a staff of the Delta Broadcasting Service here in Asaba.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the privilege, AIWERIE.
To my far left is Mr. Erhunmwunsen. Mr. Erhunmwunsen is the bureau chief of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. Mr. Sam, welcome to the program.
Good evening. Happy viewing.
Let's get down to brass tacks. Politics, that's what it is. And 2023 is knocking.
Yes.
And with that, you know, there's the issue. The various parties have come up with, or the National Assembly has actually adumbrated, delineated three methods. Is it direct? Is it indirect? Is it by consensus? It's all a part of the new Electoral Act, and it appears all parties have favored the indirect method. I do not know whether that is good enough for Nigerians. What do you think about this predilection for the indirect method as opposed to direct, which is otherwise called option 8-4,
Yes.
which we've used successfully in the past?
Yes.
What do you think is maybe responsible for this desire by political parties to?
Yeah. Well, usually election infrastructure also naturally connect with the political culture of the people, and what we have now, this predilection and inclination to for indirect election, I suppose is part of the processes of authentication going on in the body politic. You know, a body politic, you know, is usually elastic. It reacts to conditions, you know, usually wrought by succeeding or successive circumstances, events, and developments. So this hunger for indirect, primary election is perhaps explainable in terms of what constituents of the body politics, you know, see as likely implications if the opposite method is adopted. The indirect method, you know, like what you just mentioned, option A4, somehow the thinking may be that the nature of indigenous society, because society precedes political behavior. Political behavior is inseparable from the social culture that prevails at any point in time, and so the preference may be due to the fact that we are an evolving democratic culture, and we need greater exposure allow ourselves to be more amenable to sophistication, instead of the other method, because somehow the other method it appears to be more culturally workable in advanced democracies where a higher level of exposure does prevail, understanding. And you saw what happened when Trump and Hillary, got it hot on the election pavement. They hugged each other. Apart from the Buhari-Jonathan near melodrama in 2015, where one had to congratulate the other, and the other also, reciprocated. Politics, right from 1960, has always, been visited with hostility, lack of friendship, and we should not forget that Operation Wait here led to Kaduna Zogo, striking definitively. So we need a political culture where friendship, understanding, is a consensus spirit would dominate proceedings. So I'm sure that the preference for indirect elections, is part of the kind of a cultural rearmament taking place, on the political scene. And the most important thing is, let's see how it will play out.
Thank you very much. What you have just told us is that it is culturally, for some society, it's a culture, but that culture we do not seem to have it in Nigeria, and it's evolving. Maybe as time progresses, we will become much more sophisticated. Thank you very much for that enlightenment. Mr. Erhunmwunsen, this is a delegate election, and by that it means that a few number of persons are going to have to determine who becomes, for example, the PDP flag bearer. A few persons. Take from what Mr. Almuna has just said, it's very, very tempting. A few persons, and of course, if you add in the mix of money and all the other things that goes around Nigerian politics, do you think this is the right type of method? Is it the best, do you think, or do you subscribe to the direct or consensus like they are pushing?
Thank you very much, moderator. And before I attempt your question or provide answers to what you have asked, I want to say that to the best of my knowledge, there is no political party in Nigeria as of today that has said this is the method we are adopting. If you look at the 1999 Constitution as amended, the new electoral act as signed in by President Muhammadu Buhari, 3 options, just what you told us at the beginning of this interactive, the direct, the indirect, and the consensus. Now, you see that there are even some parties, maybe depending on the primary, the offices to conduct a primary to get their candidates. Some parties, from the body language, like that of APC for their presidential primary, it appears that they are going towards consensus from what we have read about that political party. And PDP is yet to decide the method they are going to use, whether it's going to be direct or indirect primary. So I think for now we have to allow the political parties to decide whichever method. Anyone that they go for, as far as is agreed by the party stakeholders, we should allow it to go. Now, to answer your question, the indirect primary. You see that indirect primary for years, things is the return of democracy. It has really had to, especially in the People's Democratic Party. Everybody cannot participate in a primary. That indirect primary delegate. That's why they call it delegates. For you to be a delegate, it means you represent the interest of your party men and women, they have confidence in you that you'll be able to do the needful and do what is right. At least you are representing them in the election, in the primary election, before the general election. So few individual, few, are they really few? The previous primaries we've had in this country, at the state, at the national level, you've heard of some parties, 2,000 delegates, in some parties, less than that, depending on the resources, the strength, and the popularity, the numerical strength of the political party. In a party that has 2,000 delegates to decide who will represent, who will be their flag bearer, either at the state House of Assembly or at the House of Rep or the Senate or the President or at the global level, I don't think 2,000 is really few. It depending on the way you look at it. Because
a
those
population
delegates,
of 4 million, 2,000?
No, because no, we are saying that those delegates, they cut across. Delegates are picked. How are delegates picked? They are picked.
No, we haven't come to that.
Okay,
What do I say? What do I say is from a population of 4 million, Deltans are 4 million for God's sake.
4 million.
And you are talking about 2,000.
And you know that 4 million you are talking about, that is the population of the state. Yeah. Now we are talking about party.
It still doesn't change anything.
No, in a political, in data, the data has all the registered political parties. That's about 18 or 19. Approved by, after the registration of some political parties, the number of political parties in the country has been reduced to 18. Now, in a state or in a country that has about 18 registered political parties, let's assume data has a population of about 4 million plus. I know that 4 million plus include children, but children are not part. They are not up to 18. Not until you are up to 18, you are not eligible to participate in any electionary activity. So, and you know that 4 million, all the political parties, they will get their delegates from there. APC, PDP, ABGA, Labour Party, Zenith, Labour Party, and others. So, moderator, I will not agree with you that the delegates are few. They are not really few. Provided they are really few. That's
not the issue. The issue is this: if a given election is holding in, for example, let's take Delta State, and for example, maybe PDP, they have like 3,000 delegates, and you are saying that for 3,000 persons to determine the fate of 4 million is not few. It is.
No, don't say 4 million, because the population of registered PDP members.
The effect of the action of the politician would affect everybody.
No, that is in the general election.
Of course.
Because now we don't know whether the PDP is going to emerge victorious in the election or whether it's that of APC. So for now, we should be concerned about what is the numerical strength of each political party. Do you understand? That of APC, what is their numerical strength? The number of registered.
They said they had 84 million. They said they had 84 million. APC.
No, I mean at the state level.
I suppose the variety factor. Yes, the numerical factor, is important. Yes. But the overriding significant factor, it's like a central tendency in statistics. The overriding factor is the mode of selection. And that mode, there's a variation, direct and indirect. And so a kind of assumption is that the preference for the indirect. And you also give historical relevance to the fact that culturally, it is something that we have to practice and evolve with time. So it is a mode of selection, and if that mode is more amenable to democratic practice, that is the most important consideration.
But that is where that's a sticking point now.
Yes.
Is this mode amenable to democratic
practice? Yes.
Is it?
Yes. Is it more democratic?
But let's leave that.
Okay.
Who can be referred to as a party delegate? Because the primaries they are on us. I think PDP has 21st, I think it starts, or maybe even earlier than that, but
The primaries.
the primary, I think 21st.
that-
Gubernatorial 21st, May.
The process has even begun. Just behind us, that movement in that place is a no go
back and forth,
because
okay.
it's a beehive.
Yeah, so who can be referred to as a party delegate? Mr. Erhunmwunsen, you want to help us?
A party delegate a party delegate is someone, it depends, but generally the way they see a party delegate is if you have occupied elective position or you are occupying elective position. Like at the local government level, people that they take as party delegates, they are those that are local government chairman, the local government vice chairman, then the councillors. So these are people they refer to as party delegates. That means, for example, that of PDP, or the PDP elected officials at the local government level. Then the same thing applies to state and even to national. Though there are some other delegates, but what the delegate I'm talking about, they are statutory delegates that are recognized by law. At the state level, only those that have occupied elective positions,
The members of National Assembly
and the members of House of Assembly, members of House of Assembly, they have occupied elective offices before. Commissioners are not delegates, except maybe they have occupied elective position before their present appointment. But you know, some party constitution may decide to come up with, say, for our delegate, these are the criteria. But generally speaking, delegates are people that have held elective positions or that are occupying elective positions.
So anybody that is elected or appointed public official is automatically delegate. So it's beyond just being elected. If you are appointed, so in that regard, commissioners should be delegates.
No, because I think in some
no, the PDP constitution says that any party member that is elected or appointed public official is automatically delegated at local, state, and national congresses here. So it's clear that anybody who is appointed, anybody who is elected, and also I hear that at the ward level, the elected as ESCO, they are all delegates.
Yes. Elected
So that's the beginning of political activity. The ward.
The ward, the ward there.
Yes.
And with PDP, we're in Delta State, so let's talk about the PDP, because PDP primaries will be happening, I think, May 21st. So what that means is, with over 3,700 delegates, 3,700 delegates will storm Asaba.
Yes.
And
Decide
who would
who wears the cap.
who the cap fits.
Yes.
But to whom are they answerable, Mr. Almona? To whom are delegates answerable? Because there's this talk about delegates being influenced, you know, pecuniary influence and all of that.
Yes.
Can one man influence over 3,700?
Yes, I like your choice of diction. This is not surprising because we remember the first floor of University of Benin. True. Now, being answerable to an individual, in terms of phrasing, you know, they may not, one particular expression may not, you know, deter radically from being influenced by. But being influenced by, that is where pecuniary factors come in. Otherwise, answerability is, in this context, strictly official. You are, in statutory or in formalistic terms, every delegate is answerable to the chief returning officer.
In the during the election,
exactly, because the notion of a delegate is purely elective. No, true. You don't, a ward chairman, a member of the ward executive, a local government chairman, local government secretary. You don't just wear that toga, delegate. So the notion of a delegate is purely, you know, function or occasion related. So for that occasion, you are answerable to the chief returning officer. But that is not the issue. The issue in terms of what actually happens at the end of the day is being in the influence that you are dancing to.
That is really what I'm saying.
And that is the determinant of the character of the political culture. Now, delegate politics in America, in UK, in Ghana. You see, you find that Ghana is fast assuming a very audacious character in terms of development pattern.
True.
People lining up in Accra, you have a greater sense of confidence. Because you see, maybe we had the privilege of a Ghana head of state in an official entourage. Everyone says just 2 or 3 vehicles.
That's all.
That may be dramatic, but it's a pointer to the nature of the political culture.
True.
So, in a place like Ghana, in a place like America, in a place like UK, delegate politics will differ radically from what we have here. Because Nigeria is that we play pragmatic politics.
What does that
we
mean?
play pragmatic politics connects maybe cognitively with fire shares, stomach infrastructure. And stomach infrastructure concept, no matter how, at times it may be demeaning at face value, but it is practical because it serves a purpose. Stomach infrastructure issue came with the change in Nigeria's political economy after Babangida's dictatorship of 1985 to 1993. Ibrahim Babangida, I don't mean to demean the general, but he changed the face of the economy, introduced a more vicious form of opportunism to the social system. And so that came with the politics. The politics 1999 to present day conform more to that kind of political culture. 1979 to 1983, it was more of principle.
True.
People were conscious of the charismatic power of Obafemi Awolowo. People were interested in Zikism. Those days, if you attended the Zik lectures, you always came back with your ear will be dreaming with Zims. But the Zims too were also educative to you because you try to cognize issues in development and politics. Aminu Kano talked about selflessness. Wazir Ibrahim talked about mixing bitter political confrontation with friendship. You understand? So today's political culture affects the delegate. So the delegate is usually influenced by the nature of the economy. And that was why, not quite long, 2015, when the primaries, gubernatorial primaries were taking place at the event center. Senator, yes.
2014.
My friend now told me that, you are in DBS here. I said, what is happening? Oh, so you don't want to be part of the dollar party?
Dollar reign.
Which was dollar reign? Go there. I say, no, I'm not even eligible for a dollar reign because I don't wear the garb of a delegate. One of the delegates that came out of that scene, about a week late after that event, he went to the showroom.
Car showroom,
Car showroom, of course.
So a lot have transpired between them. But let's be specific. How are these delegates? Are they elected? Are they appointed? Are they selected? Or are they handpicked? Maybe you want to throw some light on that first.
No, just from what you made us to understand about how who are delegates. You earlier asked that question, say who are delegates. To me, before coming to the studio, my perception of delegate, someone who has been elected into public office or who is occupying elective public office. But from the enlightenment you provided, you said appointed into public
selected elected and appointed.
Okay, say elected and appointed.
Yeah.
Okay, I miss the thing is beginning to have a wider scope or wider meaning. Now, delegates say, how are they statutorily? All these things are provided for in the party's constitution.
Yeah.
In the party constitution.
True, yeah.
And I'm even sure it might even be in the new electoral act assigned to new electoral
amendment act.
Electoral amendment act.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the delegates, they already know themselves. These delegates, they already know themselves, and that explains while aspirants, they know where to go ahead of the party primaries. They'll be going to ward level to meet with the elected party executive, the elected state executive, because they know that eventually local government, they know that eventually these are people that will be delegates. So at the local government level, delegates, they already know themselves. The elected ESCO at the local government level, they are statutory delegates, they are automatic delegates. Then councillors, well, I know that the number of councillors we have in data, each local government has 15, it's not 15?
It's specified anyway.
Okay, it depends. I thought it's 2020. Each local government has, I think, 20 councillors. From the last election that they did.
What structure?
So 20 times 25, that is about almost 500 councillors. So I don't really know whether these 500 councillors using PDP as a case study are automatic delegates.
They should be, no? Yeah. They were elected.
Yeah. Okay. Each ward sends a representative.
They were elected.
Okay, send representative.
Yes, a council.
So these are the people that will be delegates. Delegates, they already know, they are already provided for. And it's not just for any local government chairman or for a state government to say because I'm the governor of the state or because I'm the president of the country, I can decide to use anybody as delegate. My wife can be a delegate, my children can be delegate. It is not done that way. They are already provided for in the party's constitution.
No, but there's what they call ad hoc delegates. Ad hoc delegates as distinct from statutory delegates. That's what they call ad hoc. And I think it's only PDP. It's only PDP that has that one. If not, it does not cut across board. I think PDP has ad hoc.
Yeah,
they have provision of ad hoc.
Yeah. And they allow them to vote in.
What I'm saying, how are those ones?
Okay, that's the ad hoc delegates.
Are they brought in? Are they selected? Are they handpicked? That's the
no. That ad hoc delegate you are talking about. You know,
it's only peculiar to PDP.
No, if it's peculiar to PDP. Yes. There is a specified number of ad hoc delegates that must participate in the election. Let's assume they meet. Okay, maybe assumption now. If the number of ad hoc delegates to participate in the primary, then the primary, maybe indirect primary, is let me say 100 or 200. I'm sure the number may not even be much, 100 or 200. So it's now at the discretion who picks the delegate.
That's the point.
Who is the head? Who is the chief executive officer of a state? The governor. That means for a state that is being run by, if the governor, okay, how do I put it now? In a state like Delta now, the chief executive officer of Delta is the governor of the state. But if it's APC, where they don't have a governor, it's an opposition. So who gets who produces the ad hoc delegate?
No, I do not know whether APC has, but the most senior.
I'll leave that to APC because there are some PDP states where they don't have governors.
True. Yeah.
Do you understand that? That's why I have to bring that in. But for ad hoc delegate, I think the responsibility lies in the hands of the governor to pick ad hoc delegates. But I know that one is going to face some criticism because I understand that they are beginning to look at, because people are beginning to see that this ad hoc delegate of 15, the provision for ad hoc delegate is giving some chief executive officers advantage.
I actually heard that there was a little bit of crisis in some of these local governments over this issue.
These ad hoc delegates. Right. So I don't really know.
So, Mr. Almona, what actually influences the choice of candidates of this delegate? What are they? What is it? What motivates them? Is it altruism? Is it patriotism? Is it something that, or is it just like we say, stomach infrastructure? That's what guides their decisions.
Stomach infrastructure plays its own quiet role. It is by the side. It's like a joker. when decisions correspond to the reality of scale of preference, in economics, at the end of the day, there's one factor that also is marginal, but it plays a very pivotal role. That's stomach infrastructure. Well, the delegate's political behavior is influenced by a principal thing, which is normal in politics: consultative skill, consultative power. Politics is consultation.
True. Yeah.
And consensus building.
That's right. Yeah.
Mr. Gray, Ms. Unoka may be contestants, and AIWERIOGHENE and Erhunmwunsen may be the delegates. Okay, Mr. Gray will now move out to Erhunmwunsen. Look, this is my dream. This is what I intend to do. Please, cast your franchise should be sent to my areas, in my direction. Then Ms. Unoka now goes persuasively towards AIWERIOGHENE. So you find that kind of sociometry in politics. So delegate choice is subject to the usual things in politics. Politics is persuasion, trying to convince the potential voter that this is, the vision, the participant has. So outside those criteria, because we are a developing economy where the price level is very high, there's price inflation. As we speak, BEDC is out of order. Infrastructure is as good as collapsed. When such factors, are there at the center stage, it affects political behavior. When there's frustration, so that is where the money bag issue comes in. If after all the position by Mr. Gray and Ms. Unoka do not work, at the end of the day, we go herself. But this Oyibo too much. But in Ghana, in America, they will not say this Oyibo is too much. They will think of what your vision how it will impact on the quality of society. True. So that is the point we want to advance to. But I know it depends on the political leadership. The political leadership has to struggle to make society worth the while. Kayode, that's governor of Ekiti, Fayemi said, let's make Nigeria livable. So when these conditions prevail, the delegates' choice of who to cast his vote for will be dependent on how he independently assesses the beneficiary of his Otherwise, after that, beyond that, stomach infrastructure usually entrenches mediocrity.
True.
Because it brings the worst to the center. So
but I'm sure that the delegates would not place too much premium on that stomach infrastructure we're talking about. Because what I think every thoughtful person would do if you're in that situation, you will think about your life, the current situation, how you are situated. Is it economically? Are you doing well? You think about the future of your children and all of that. That's what I think delegates. But I do not know whether these very high noble standards
prevail.
Yes, I do not know. That is because we hear so many stories of dollar rain during primary. So that's what makes people begin to wonder whether the selection process will be based on
free and fair.
Yes, that's the reason why people express such fear. And a lot of people look at the governor. They say the governor is so powerful that he would influence the delegates to vote in a particular direction.
And you cannot rule that out.
I do not know whether that is possible. How can the governor, sitting governor, for example, reach out to 3,700 plus delegates?
He can, because African politics is paternalistic. Father figure. The governor is the father of all. And once there's a decision, you toe that line. Let me tell you something. 2002, there was a lot near fracas in Okwane local government about the transition committee chairmanship. A particular direction moved towards a particular candidate, who incidentally is my cousin, one of the Daffys. He was a prime target. And what was the issue? So, his governor's
governor's candidate.
No, they were not explicit. His governor. They said. Governor said they should work with you know those expressions, they come vaguely. Governor say a situation where international processes are dependent on vague registers. You know that somehow there's a kind of paternalistic behavior. So at the end of the day, the candidate was it was not even an election. Transition committee process in 2002 was not elective. It was appointive and near authoritarian, because he had the tendencies of a militaristic setting. But at the end of the day, that person dictated the pace. Why? Because he has been associated with the government. Let me tell you, Nigerian politics will continue to be paternalistic. That is why The governor, the president, they wield a near, the power of near of a deity, unchallengeable. You understand? And ironically, that kind of politics will not bring about development and growth. We will continue to reason like robots.
You see, these delegates. It's why it's very important that delegates for these primaries actually go there and vote their conscience. Why it's very important? Because sometime in 2018, the presidential primaries, we had candidates allegedly spent millions of dollars to bribe delegates. 2018, just 2018 here. And it makes people begin to wonder whether that election or the result wasn't contrived, wasn't bought. Because it's clear.
I use the right word, contrived.
It was contrived, so it's clear. So that's why it is very important that delegates for these party primaries, PDP for example, because we're in Delta State, delegates for the primaries should act above board, should act with a little bit of nobility, because whatever decision they take in that few hours would affect their own children yet unborn. That is why it's important that we drum it into the ears of those delegates who will be participating in the primaries to do the right thing every time.
Are you sure they will listen?
No, but but let us, but at least,
about the academic job.
But at least, it is important that there be some force that pushes in the direction of nobility and basically that. But there's this argument between, because if you remember that electoral act, how it eventually was birthed, it happened that the National Assembly actually opted for only one direct method of primaries, and it went back and forth. There was this argument. I think the governors, they actually alleged that the governors were not comfortable with it, and there was a lot of back and forward movement. Some governors going to see Buhari, the president, and trying to make him do their bidding. So that it's a big problem in Nigeria. Until we get this right, we'll always have problem with the leaders we select. There's this case, they say some primaries are so keenly contested that aspirants believe that whoever emerges as flag bearer is as good as winning the general election. For example, in PDP, whoever wins PDP primaries, 50-70% in his heart, they will say, man, I'm a governor already, and everybody will be acting in that direction. So, Mr. Almona, what do you think Nigerians should do to make delegates do the right thing? Because ultimately, they are representative of a section in a world. What do you think? How do you think we can put pressure on them to do the right thing?
By political education will play an important role on how do you educate politically. Yes, personal representations, inputs through the media, through interactional platforms, to representatives. You send out these feelers, and then I think a greater political education that will impact on the thinking of potential delegates is the behavior of the political leadership. If the political leadership leads by example, then it will entrench probity. Once probity is entrenched, you find it difficult to tell a lie. You find it difficult to beat the traffic light. I keep referring to Ghana.
They are closest.
My brother said in Accra,
they are shining star in West Africa.
If the red light is on and 11 p.m. odd time of day, the driver will remain stuck to that point until the green light,
comes on.
Yes. So there's a way the political leadership leads by example. Its utterances, its actions are bound within the fulcrum of honesty and desire to ensure that the right thing is done.
Integrity,
Obafemi Awolowo tried to entrench this political order That was when Adebayo Williams wrote about Awolowo. He wrote effusively because, you know, the entire Yoruba body politic benefited not necessarily materially from Awolowo's wonderful education policies, but from his philosophy. You know, I will try to entrench, you know, hard work, dignity of labor, and doing things the right way. Look at what he did when he was Federal Commissioner for Finance, 1971 to 1967. 1966 rather, because Gowon appointed him Federal Commissioner for Finance on August 2nd, 1966, when Gowon came to power. He became Federal Commissioner for Finance. Still, he resigned voluntarily that he was going to take part in the politics that never was. he expected handover, I said before, but there was no handover, so he became frustrated. Awo directed all federal ministries to save £1 million for the Nigeria-Biafra war. All federal ministries, £1 million. Nigeria did not borrow a kobo. Nigeria borrowed a kobo. But today, when Aso Rock is embroiled in debt crisis, how do you expect the delegate to develop his political philosophy?
True.
His political philosophy with that of a cause and effect. Give me and I'll give you. No, that will not be developed society. That will not grow society.
Yeah. So, but Mr. Erhunmwunsen, because this political party actually is supposed to be a group of individuals who have a common interest and they come together and want to win elections. And but it appears that is where the challenge actually starts from, the political party. How can we make them more democratic? Because we know that if the right political culture is in place, those who are led would emulate that kind of attitude or habit or tendency, you know. But it appears that is not the case in Nigeria. Look at what has just happened, where politics has become, the whole electionary process becomes so monetized. I hear a political party is fixing 100 million for. It's so difficult. So I don't think that is
conceivable.
That's not proper. That's one opinion. You know, 100 million is too much. But how do you think we can make our political parties more democratic? What do you think?
You know, thank you very much. It can be done through reorientation. I think many political parties, they are beginning to realize that. You know, party primary is the bedrock of democracy of any political party. Yes. Once there is no internal democracy at the party level, forget it. There is nothing that the party can translate to the larger society. And that explains the reason leaders of some of these political parties, they are beginning to drum it to their team supporters, to chieftains, major stakeholders in the nation's political parties, that ensure that most popular persons emerged as party flag bearers in any of the positions. That once you bring in unpopular person, because the person is very influential, because the person has money, do you understand that? Money. He said there is an extent to which that money can go. Look at what happened in Anambra. A lot of money was offered, but voters, they collected their money and they voted their conscience.
That's good, yeah.
So that's why many political parties, I'm sure many political parties, they have learned from Anambra experience. And that's why they are now beginning to ensure that the right thing are done at the party primary. And you know, INEC is watching any party that does not do the right thing at the party primary may stand the chance to lose any election, even if he's declared winner. Just look at Supreme Court verdict for Anambra election. The APC candidate in that election, Anambra, the Supreme Court ruled that he was not properly elected to represent the party
at the primary level.
At the primary level. Do you understand that? So you can see that is why many political parties, they are now beginning to be cautious of how to ensure democracy at their party primary. In position
we hardly of any position. It used to be very prominent in those days, in those years. But today, the issue of imposition is beginning to fade away. Many political parties, they are now beginning to see that imposition is not the way. Because if you impose somebody that does not represent the interest of the people, that the people, members of their political party do not like, some of them at the general election, they may even vote against that person. And you know what causes party crisis? It's the fallout of primary.
Definitely.
It's the fallout of primary. Once the right thing is not done, once the right thing is not done at the party primary, it snowballs to party crisis, which may even tear that political party into pieces and to even make them to lose that election. We've seen several instances. So political party, what they require is reorientation. Let them know that delegates, once you allow money, the quest for materialism, to influence your choice of your party's candidate at the House of Assembly, National Assembly, governorship, presidential, that you are invariably creating a platform for that party to lose election. It's as good as that, because even the aspirants that want to be candidate, once they have parted with huge sum of money, and if they now mistakenly win that election, you don't expect much from them. That's why sometimes some of these our elected leaders, they don't perform well, considering the money that they are parting with. But I think the way to go is, whether money is involved or not, delegates, they must vote their conscience. This issue of say we in Oshimele South local government, we will make up our mind, the party will decide, our leader will decide for us who to cast our vote to in the primary, and that is what has been happening. You see that all of them will just line up and vote for a particular aspirant.
No, but now how do you resolve that problem when party leaders are the one perpetrating this?
You say the party leader said this is the person we have to.
That's the point I'm making. So
they negate the principle of democracy.
How now do you resolve that? How now do you get political parties to become much more democratic in their democratic disposition? How do you do? Because I've heard that a number of times. Now our leader with the wait for we go show us direction.
Exactly. That's what
we've heard that several times. So
I'll give us direction.
I'm sure what Mr. Almuna has talked about, education. When you educate the people to make them understand that whatever you are doing, think of the future, because it will. You are mortgaging the education, the health of your children. So that's, I'm sure the Deltans and Nigerians at large should take this home. If nothing, if you are a delegate at the forthcoming party primary, do what is the right thing. Act with conviction. Do not take money. If they give you money, by all means, it's our money. Take the money, but vote your conscience. That is the truth. So, but Mr. Almuna, there's this argument that the National Assembly can empower INEC to properly monitor political parties by strengthening that mechanism. I'm sure there's a mechanism, because INEC usually they are present during party politics. Yeah. But maybe it's not strengthened enough. Maybe that is where INEC should take steps to address, because when the party primaries are held and the thing drags on and the elections are held, the man who lost at the primary is waiting. When the man wins, he goes to the court.
Yes.
So what do you think, how do you think INEC can help in this regard?
Well, INEC
the National Assembly in terms of properly empowering INEC to do it, to carry out the process. That's right.
Yeah. The National Assembly is a practical device. You know, the national legislature, legislation generally, legislative assemblies are practical devices for strengthening the polity, and so a very major constituent of the polity is the decision-making process where it has to do with constituting the state structure. Yeah. So you can do this by ensuring that the National Assembly is reducible to representatives. At the senatorial level, you have a district representation. Yeah. At the representative level, you have constituencies. Ndokwa Kwani Federal Constituency, Anyocha, Oshimili. Then at the senatorial level, you have Delta North, Central, and South. Now, this is a very effective tool for creating a kind of leeway, an international relationship between INEC and the Assembly to ensure that that agency is materially and logistically strengthened to ensure that elections conform to the textbook and not outside the textbook. That's it. And it can take also the form of refresher, symposia, consultative community engagement by senatorial representatives, House of Reps representatives, all over the constituencies of the country, the geopolitical zones. After all that consultative fora, the next thing is also to put in place something like not necessarily cash inducement, but a way of ensuring that INEC carries out that important role of community engagement, consultative relationships, to ensure that yes, that work is carried out effectively. And more importantly, the day of the primaries itself, INEC will provide this physical presence is emboldening. To embolden the party structure to ensure that, apart from us, the party executives, there is the national umpire, the national electoral umpire, to make sure everything is in order. So it involves these kind of processes.
So it's in view of what you have just said, it appears it's right to conclude that party delegates, they are very powerful and they are pivotal to the sustenance and the entrenchment of internal democracy in our political parties. And you have also said that our delegates should understand that whatever decisions they take in those few hours would have impact, whether deleterious, whether favorable, it will on them, on their children. So it's I can tell you for free that our delegates, when they are going for this, they will have a rethink, because this thing has happened over and over since 1999. So by now, nobody will be talking about we are still evolving, we are still infants. I think they should know what, because we who wear the shoe, we wear pinches. Electricity is a problem, roads are a problem, education, everything, they are all a challenge in Nigeria. So Nigerians are on the verge of a new dawn. So I'm sure our delegates should do what is needful. Just your last word to delegates, Mr. Erhunmwunsen. What do you think they should be doing that they are not doing correctly, that they should be doing right?
Delegates across party divide, they have between now and the next 30 days or thereabouts to get themselves prepared for the exercise. They should do the needful. They have to consider a lot of things, not necessarily this is what our leader has said. And again, on the part of the people in charge of the body in charge of the party primary, they ensure that the level playing field is provided for our aspirants. Sometimes when level playing field is not provided for all aspirants, it can also influence the delegate choice for candidates. I think delegates do the needful. Know that you as a delegate, you are not just there on your own. The people sent you there, so you must ensure that the decision you take represent the interest of the people you are representing at that party primary. Thank you very much.
Mr. Almuna.
Yes, the delegate should cohere with his conscience, and just like what you said, ensure that today's decision will affect the quality of tomorrow.
Viewer, we have come to the close of today's episode. We'll ask you to join us same time tomorrow. I've been your host, AIWERIOGHENE OKUNGBOWA. Thank you very much for being a part of today.